back. Let's bring in tonight's panel. Matthew Continetti is editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief for USA Today. And Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com and an MSNBC contributor. Guys, welcome. Lots of breaking news today. Let's start, though, with Andrew McCabe. The White House says they didn't get involved in this in any way, that this was all Andrew McCabe's decision and you'd have to ask the FBI. They may say that, but the reality is Donald Trump was putting a lot of political pressure on him on Twitter, in interviews, was not happy. So how much do you chalk up his stepping down to the current environment, Matthew?
Well, I think we have to distinguish between maybe the Trump White House and President Trump himself. And it may very well be true that the Trump White House didn't have much interaction or involvement with McCabe's decision to step down about a month early before he was planning to. On the other hand, of course, as we've known for years now, Donald Trump has made a big issue out of not only McCabe being there, but also, of course, McCabe's wife's attempt to run for the state Senate seat and having the donations from Terry McAuliffe back in 2015.
NBC News has new reporting from Carol Lee that's talking about Donald Trump and Andrew McCabe and a conversation they had when he fired James Comey. James Comey was taking the FBI plane back from Los Angeles to FBI headquarters. Remember, he fired him while he was on a trip to L.A. Donald Trump was furious that he was using an FBI plane to get back, and he said, Andrew McCabe, why did you authorize this? And he said, I wasn't asked, but if I had, I would have approved it. And then Donald Trump said something like, well, you should ask, he paused, and you should ask your wife what it feels like to be a loser.
That sounds exactly like the President of the United States that we have right now. It is very believable. And every time you hear one of these quotes, what always dawns on me is, sometimes confirmed sources, unconfirmed sources, regardless, but you hear so many of them, it sounds like Donald Trump's voice. If you're in that kind of work environment, yes, I can understand why Andrew McCabe would say, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. But it also sort of speaks to the pettiness and the avarice that we're constantly hearing from this president. Isn't the same president who, left Sean Spicer off a plane and did the same thing to Ryan Priebus? I mean, he's done these kinds of petty transportation moves before. So for him to chastise McCabe for behavior that he is engaged in, that's the kind of thing that would make any civil servant want to go.
There's all sorts of stories in the press how he used to leave Marla Maples at the airport when she wasn't on time. The politics of this, though, is anybody safe in the Justice Department? Anybody who Donald Trump doesn't like, or runs afoul of him, or isn't loyal enough? Is anybody safe?
Well, I think it's clear that no one is safe from criticism, and that some people have chosen to leave in the face of that kind of criticism, like Mr. McCabe, and some have not, like Jeff Sessions. Remember, Jeff Sessions came in for some really fierce criticism from the president and chose to stay on. But I think what we're seeing is a concerted attempt by Republicans to discredit the institutions that may come out with a very serious report about Donald Trump's engagement in Russian meddling or an obstruction of justice. I think this is a preemptive effort to make some Americans at least question whether they can trust the report that we think we're going to see relatively soon from the special counsel.
So we have this New York Times report that Andrew McCabe steps down under pressure, admitting that there was pressure, apparently. The NBC News report that Donald Trump called Andrew McCabe's wife a loser because Comey took the plane home. There's also a Bloomberg report that says on a flight to Davos, Trump erupted over DOJ role in Russia probe. He was unhappy that a DOJ official said it would be a very bad idea, essentially, reckless.
Extremely reckless.
Extremely reckless. Extraordinarily reckless to release these memos. I mean, when you take all of these stories together, doesn't it point you in a direction?
It points me in the direction that Donald Trump does not like the Russia investigation. He hasn't liked it from the beginning. He didn't like it when James Comey refused to say that Trump was not under investigation. He didn't like that part so much that he fired Comey, which led to the appointment of Mueller, which led to Donald Trump being under investigation for possible obstruction of justice. And now he really doesn't like that part. It's a frustration, I think, that Trump continually runs into. Luckily, though, we seem to have a lot of buttresses, I think, in Washington, D.C. that are preventing him.
Do you think so?
As for now, oh, yeah. Well, I mean, look, the fact is with the McGahn story, that big New York Times blockbuster, is no matter what the details were, Trump backed off.
Because of one person stood up.
Right.
So what if
at least one
he had
person
not?
we know about.
Well, yeah, right. But I mean, and that's not really an institution. That's not one of our protections that the White House counsel would say.
You also have Chris Coons debating legislation, and you mentioned the Graham Booker legislation. We also
but so far we haven't seen that.
We also have the courts that have stood up against Donald Trump multiple times.
But here's the thing: if Donald
half.
Trump does try to go and fire Bob Mueller, or if he tries to go down the line to fire Bob Mueller, are you confident that the Republicans who are standing firm today are going to stand firm when that happens? Is Lindsey Graham going to be as tough as he sounds today in a week or 2 weeks or 3 months or whatever it happens, if it does happen? Already we've seen other Republicans waver in their dedication to protecting Robert Mueller. It's not, now it's a, I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals, when before it was a, absolutely, that is a red line. If he crosses it, it's over.
Well, one thing I think we are pretty
Graham, you can be confident.
Maybe Lindsey Graham, but a lot of other
I have
Republicans.
no confidence in any of them. I have absolutely no confidence in any of them. They have capitulated on almost every turn. Even Jeff Flake. Remember, people have asked, Jeff Flake has all these mean things to say. He's never engaged in any actual policy activity, no votes to actually stop some of the behavior that Donald Trump engages in. And since ultimately this investigation about collusion, at least, is going to fall down to whether or not members of Congress seek an impeachable offense, I don't have any faith in any of them to do the right thing when it comes to this president.
You know, if the president fires a special counsel, Democrats will win the House of Representatives in November, and they will vote to impeach the president next year, I think, on the grounds that that is a really serious obstruction of justice.
Which is one reason I think of all the names you've mentioned, Katie, Bob Mueller may have the safest position in the Trump Justice Department.
But look what Kevin McCarthy told told Chuck Todd, not Donald Trump, Chuck Todd yesterday on Meet the Press. He asked him if McCarthy would support legislation to protect Mueller. And maybe you get this in the Senate, but here's the House. Would McCarthy protect Mueller? McCarthy said this: I don't think there's a need for legislation right now to protect Mueller. If there's an issue that arrives, we'll take it up at that time. But right now there is not an issue. So why create one when there isn't a place for it? How can you say that there's not an issue? It's not an issue when the New York Times has just reported that he tried to do so. I mean, what is the harm, I guess, in Republicans just coming out and saying, you know, we're going to make sure everything stays above board. Let's pass this legislation so all of the people of this country know that we are trying to protect the integrity of an investigation by a special counsel, somebody, Robert Mueller, who had the broad support of everybody in Congress the day he got appointed, and even before that, while he was FBI director.
Because none of them are interested in seeing this investigation through. Look, we got the special prosecutor because I think there's probably a lot of Republicans who are like, look, if this ends up blowing up in our faces, at least we can put it on Mueller. But at this point, the way that they have allowed this president and never stepped up against him to insult the process, to demean one of the most important institutions in this government, which is the Department of Justice and the FBI, I don't have any confidence. And this idea, well, we don't need to protect Mueller yet, that's like, well, you know, there are some robberies in the neighborhood, but I don't really need to start locking my door. The president has made it abundantly clear that the moment he gets a window, he's going to fire this guy. So it clearly shows that McCarthy and a lot of the Republican leadership are not interested in seeing this investigation go through.
What do you think of the memo? The secret memo, the Nunes memo. I was talking to a congressman just a moment ago, and Walker, and he was saying that you can't trust Christopher Steele because he was paid by somebody. Devin Nunes was on the transition, so how do you trust Devin Nunes?
Yeah, well, this is going to be quite the test, and perhaps pretty soon with the president. And, of course, some Republicans are characterizing this as a case of transparency. Let the American people know. But you have the Trump Justice Department saying it would be extraordinarily reckless to release this. And by Republicans who have, like most Americans, like most officials, concerns about revealing information that really ought to be kept secret. This has become a very leaky town. So I think this is going to be a big fight. And the president has signaled that he will we should not expect the president to act against the House decision to release a memo if that's what they choose to do.
Hold that thought. Matt, Susan, Jason, stay with us. We'll be back in a little bit. Ahead, the